Hi, hello, hello. Good to see you, Peter.
Good to see you too.
Hello, everyone. This is Peter and Rebecca. We are talking stigma today, and we are going to be posting this on our respective podcasts, Creating Hope Together and Recover Yourself. So I would like to start by asking you, Peter, when you hear stigma, what comes to mind?
What comes to my mind is once you, there's so much stigma out there these days on a variety of things. And once you, let's say, self-identify as something, I'm an addict, I'm an alcoholic, somehow you could be in a situation where you feel you're in a level playing field, and then immediately you think, well, now that I've identified as a addict, alcoholic, I somehow am less than in the eyes of others. I believe there's two kind of stigmas. One that is real stigma, where others look at people that are using drugs, addicted to drugs, recovering, abstinent, alcoholics, addicts, sex addicts, people that go to Al-Anon. You know, they have a family member with a addiction problem. So societal looks at people like that differently. And then the stigma that I place upon myself. Somehow I think I'm less than when I identify that way, or knowing that I've had this particular thing. And I think that's one of the bigger battles that as an individual that I fight. You know, am I really less than, or am I even more powerful because I've gone through something like that?
Yeah, I think all of those things as well. I think that last one you touched on, the self stigma, is, a reaction to the public stigma. As you pointed out, once you come out in the world as I'm an addict, or I'm an alcoholic, or I'm related to an addict and I'm here to support my addict friend relation, whatever, you get the public stigma, you get the looks. Oh, okay, I understand. You get the, okay, you're going to sit at that end of the table. Well, I'll sit over at this table just so that I'm not too close. And then our reactions to that are, well, I'm not even going to sit at any table. I'm going to get mine to go, because I don't want to be a part of it, because people are going to be looking at me and they're going to know, because I have the stain. I have the stain of a disease that is contagious, possibly, if I'm, proactive enough about my stigma, perhaps it could be contagious. I think that those are very real and very destructive. I also think that the combined, the symbiosis of public and private or self stigma creates this structural stigma, like, that's enacted. We place ourselves, sometimes we place ourselves, but a lot of times it's kind of implicit, this hierarchy in society. The saints are up here and the devils are down here. And where are the addicts? Where are the people who self-identify? Probably closer to here, at least in the publicly enacted stigma in society, right? So I feel like everything that you said and pointed to is accurate. And I just feel that, we have, as people who self-identify as addicts or alcoholics, we have this stain, but it's not the scarlet letter anymore. It's not what it used to be. I think, we have this mark, but it's a mark It's a red S. It's a survivor stain, is how I'm starting to think about it.
Absolutely.
It's a blazing brand, if I want to call it that, because it is a scar. It's a scar on our skull, it's a scar on our body, it's a scar on our hearts, but it's a scar of strength, I think. And I for a long time personally was very ashamed of myself for having gone through the turmoil of identifying as an alcoholic. But
Mm-hmm.
now I'm proud of it, because it's an experience that has made me the person that I am today. I don't know if that's
Oh yeah, that is so true. And that, I think, the self stigma, will go in stages, ashamed, mortified, I can't believe I've done this, and I can't believe I'm here. And then, as our whatever your process is to rebuild your life, your own self-esteem, your own self-worth, whatever those steps are. Is it a meetings? Is it readings? Is it, whatever that is? Is it faith? Is it yoga? Who knows? If, as you're walking through those steps, that it's kind of a dim, dark light, but there's a light there. But as you grow, as you come to understand, what you have, that light becomes brighter and brighter and brighter. And you realize that you have something that others don't. You have this fantastic gift
yeah.
that you can impact one life, one at a time, over and over and over again, that this, let's say, upper echelon folks might not be able to, because you've been through this battle with yourself, and you have such a great understanding of it now, that that letter that's printed on you, that scar, becomes your greatest asset, because it's multifaceted.
Exactly. And this scar that we have, the Greeks thought stigma was a bodily sign designed to expose something unusual or bad about the mortal status or the moral status of the signifier. Now, I find it interesting that there is such a stigma against people who are dependent on substances, because of the prevalence of it and the prominence of it in our society. Do you ever catch yourself enacting stigma? I've thought about this, and I know that I have. I know that I have in the past. I work really hard not to at all with anybody. After having gone through treatment and the whole realization of my own addiction, or alcoholism. So I was wondering, do you ever question yourself if you stigmatize others, or what, how that works in your life?
Well, I think I look at it this way, and I don't know if it's just either. I'll just say it this way. I think I'm sure I've done it, but I think more so I make a value judgment of someone, by, as I would make a value judgment of saying, am I going to walk down that dark alley in the inner city, downtown Minneapolis, when I'm up there? Am I going to do that? Probably not. So my ability to, I guess, read people, see people, and understand kind of where they're coming from. Active user can be dangerous to your own self. But as someone, and we're talking, stigma goes across everything. People, identity, sexual identity, race, creed, religion, lack of religion. It goes across everything. So I think maybe stigma is let's say it can be triggered on an initial encounter, and then as you've looked at your own self-stigmatizing people, how you own self-stigmatize yourself, you can catch it and you realize it. And there's so many that stigmatize and live with it and run with it and say, that one, no, is not worth saving, or not worth even, I'm going to turn my back and throw like a pile of dirt on their back, which is the last thing that we need, right? So I guess I haven't really looked at that as much, but I know I've had to have done it in the past, maybe unconsciously more so than a conscious thing. But I get to a place where, and I have it, here currently in my daily life, where I have to see the worth in a human being. And if there is something that I can give, something out of that journey that I went through, then I'll give it. If I don't have anything for that particular thing, then I there's just nothing for me to give.
Yeah. And that's interesting. If you have something to give it. Without, what we were talking about earlier off the record, my fear of giving too much away, but I think there's never too much to give away if there's something that will help another person improve or maybe change their perspective a little bit. One of the things that I found pretty striking in preparing for our discussion today was the percentage of healthcare professionals who have this stigma against addicts, alcoholics, people who are, afflicted with this disease. And I think it was it something like 44.5?
Yeah.
Percent of healthcare professionals.
Yeah.
I know myself from my own personal experience, I lied about how much I drank for years and years. And in therapy, it was always right at the tip of my tongue. I wanted to say, I think I have a problem with alcohol. But I never did because I was afraid of getting that look. And I was afraid of getting that look. And I remember even actually one time I did say it, one of the therapists I went to, I expressed my concern about my drinking and was told, "Oh, you're fine." What do you make of that? Have you ever experienced stigma with a healthcare professional?
And
not to pry, but
No, yeah, I honestly, I kind of view myself as an open book. So whatever question there is, I would answer it, no matter what it is. Nothing to lose, right? Because if somebody hears that and hears a tough question or that thing, and they're going to go, "That's me. I have that, or I did that, or that's what makes it worth it." But to answer that question, I was 16, and I was pretty heavy into the use at that time in high school. A lot was going on. Being raised by, alcoholic, had been raised by an alcoholic mother. She wasn't there a lot at toward the end there, 16, 17, and love her to death. She was remarkable, actually, for what she had, what her journey was. She was remarkable. But at our school, there was a group of kids that would go like once a week or once every 2 weeks or something like that over into the rectory building, and they'd have like a meeting, like a narcotics meeting or Narcotics Anonymous, or a group, they called it. And these were all kids that had drug problems, and they had gone to treatment or whatever. And so I knew there was this contact guy. I can't even remember his name now. And I thought, you've never done this before, but maybe it's time for you to go ask for help. So after their little meeting thing, he was sitting in his office, and I walked up to him and I asked him if he had a minute, and he said, sure. And I put it out there. I said, here's what I think I am. And he looked at me and he said, well, what do you want me to do about it? Was his answer. And then all of a sudden, the guard comes down, and I said, not a effing thing. Thanks a lot. And turned around and walked out. And I said, okay, I tried. So maybe that one thing right there, it's probably 10 years later, I was still stuck, in it. And maybe if that answer was different, things would have been different. So that was the first time I ever, encountered like you're on your own, buddy, or whatever. So, and he was a professional at helping people in recovery. So I don't know why he wanted to do that with me, but he did.
Oh, boy. Yeah, I remember I was 11 or 12, and I got drunk for the first time, and I went to school, and I told my friends or classmates, I don't know if they were friends or not, but I told them about it, and they all started calling me an alkie. And so that taught me not to share, to keep everything secret. And I think that was started the formulation of my career in drinking and other things. Just keeping things to myself, because I would be ridiculed. And that's along with the family dynamic of, you can't trust a person who doesn't drink, right? Like that was pretty popular in my households. And kind of challenges, that's all you're going to drink, you're not going to have more, kind of dynamic. So there was a stigma against not drinking in my house. So kind of the inverse of what we're actually talking about, which is kind of messed up now that I think about it.
Yeah. And you wonder if, with a self-identification like that, it triggers something in somebody else that they don't want to face, and they don't want to look at. They know their mom or dad or cousin or uncle or something, or brother has, that particular problem. So what best way to hopefully never hear it again is by ridiculing somebody or stigmatizing somebody as, you're bad. Then they don't have to maybe call their person that they know the same thing, those things that reinforced some of those issues for me was I just came into my head. I would make drinks for my mom, you know, and make sure you put ice in it. You know, I like it cold, you know. And I was an altar boy. And there's a priest, one of them, that when we go and prepare the water, wine, and the host and all that, he didn't want us to prepare his wine because he brought his wine from the rectory because he liked his wine chilled. Just like, you know, my mom. And it was like, what does that mean? What does that say? What are you?
Yeah.
You know, maybe I stigmatized him saying, well, if you like it chilled and somebody else likes it chilled that I know, maybe you have a problem too. Yet you're the guy here, you know. You're the guy on every morning and on Sundays that are, you know, preaching the word. And it was really conflicted about that for a long time. And then I went to confession with him once, and I wasn't the smartest kid, you know, diagnosed ADD and some other mental things going on. I didn't know how to do it. You know, you go in, you say, "Forgive me, Father, for I've sinned." I've learned it since. And I didn't know how to do all that. And he said, "What are you doing in here? You don't even know how to do the simplest little things." He goes, "Son, you're going to hell."
Oh my gosh.
So you want to carry that on your back for, when did I get that released? That was probably 30 years later by a Christian monk on a retreat that I was on. And yeah, he held me and he said, "Hey, he was wrong."
Yeah.
He was wrong, you know. So it kind of perpetuated this you know, me thinking he had a problem with his drinking, and it made all these connections for me, whether they were real or not real, is like, man, this particular person is really angry, and he's one way as an alcoholic can be in front of certain people, and then another way when he's kind of got this free reign and he's this second person, you know, this angry thing. So, and I used to see that a lot, you know.
Yeah.
So he knew who it was in there, you know. I was a kid from a single parent thing. I was stigmatized by that a ton by the kids. Well, you don't have a dad, and, you know, single mom, and you're less than us because we got two parents, and yada yada, all that. So, you know, I had my fair share of the stigma in the beginning, you know, or in the early years, and I just kind of, you know, kept going through the years. And now with kind of what I'm going through, the mental health stuff, I feel stigmatized as well, but a lot stronger, I guess, in it when I'm good, because I got a message to send and to story to tell.
Wow. So there's a lot in what you just shared that I can actually relate to. I went to Catholic school. My parents divorced when I was about one, you know, so very young. I never lived with them when they were married. And, you know, I was ostracized. I was stigmatized in my class because I don't think there was another child of divorce in my class until third or fourth grade. So kindergarten, first, second, I was definitely the only one. And I was that person, you know, the us them dynamic was well established. The priest was the church was involved in my parents' custody back and forth. And in later years, the priest, who, from what I understand, did not drink, would always come. My father's a dentist, would always come with a bottle of mouthwash, which was, I don't know, Royal, what's Johnny Walker, something, the mouthwash. And it just, they want you to be virtuous. They want you to be accepting. Bring everyone into the fold. We love you. God loves you. But, don't sin, because then you're ostracized, you're stigmatized, and have a drink while you're at it. It just the pretzel logic of the functioning of some of these organizations just astounds me. And I can relate to a lot of what you said. I never knew the act of contrition. I was really bad with that. I could never remember it. And it was a big fear because one of our priests was kind of nasty. But I was never berated in the confessional, thankfully. But a few times I did as an adult, when I was really starting to struggle and confront myself as an alcoholic. I did go to church. I had an on and off relationship with the church. Like, I was confirmed, but then, fell away, and then went back. I guess I had to re-enlist or something so I could be my niece's godmother. And I tried to go to a priest to talk to them about my fears, my concerns, and I was dismissed. It was just, oh, well, pray on it. Well, that's not a substantive answer. Like, you're asking, I don't know what to do with that. It was just dismissed. So I feel like there's a lot of organizational stigma and just a washing of the hands, so to speak, of people who admit that they have a problem, ask for help, but are then shunted aside and categorized as the bad people or the using people, and just put in this pen and not dealt with.
Yep. Which in that context, two things. One, I would sit there and I would understand the darkness that was come from, the nuns, that particular priest, and this, how they treated you here and, in class and all that. But how different like when they read the words out of the book, how it had such light, such love, such inclusion, such caring. Yet these people would put their own humanness to it, whether it was dark or whatever, or angry, or I don't know. They would put their world on you. So you had these two different, wait a minute, how come I'm hearing these great words and of kindness and love and hope, yet down here you leaders or whatever are treating me this way. It didn't make a lot of sense. So it made me really run from that church, because you're down here now, you're this, but doesn't that book say the reason Jesus came was for us, them down there, not you priests that already know it. So it was really a conflict for me for many, many years. And so I guess my relationship with God is strained. but I do know that if I have that faith in him, that all I have to do is ask. I don't have to go anywhere. I don't have to take a class. I don't have to sign up. I don't have to give 10%. I don't have to reaffirm any kind of religion thing, because I'm
Yeah.
not, I don't believe in religion. I believe in the spiritual side of it all. And I've had too many things happen on the spiritual side that make it, make me believe that there's a God. And two big things that really happened that I have no other explanation, no other, and it didn't happen inside four walls in a building with some kind of a leader. It happened as a collective.
Mm.
So I just think they were wrong, and their stigma that they put on people, and they're the ones, we talk about that period of time off the record we talked about at night when you put your head on that pillow and there's that time of clarity. That's when they live with it.
Yeah.
That's when we all live with it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's off the rails again by me, but
Hey, this whole thing can be off the rails, but it's still meaningful, right?
I agree.
I find it hard personally. I mean, since we're on the spiritual topic, I don't believe in the God that I once did. I don't believe in the God that I was raised to believe in. I pray every night. My partner and I, we pray before our meal together. And I say, bless you. I, express gratitude for, the good things that I have in my life and, my partner and the love that we have for each other. But I don't pray to any specific deity, I guess, just, the spirit of the world.
Right.
That's kind of how I have evolved. My spirituality has evolved. Yeah. So I don't know if that makes me an outlier with anything. I don't know where, I'm sorry. I don't know where this is really going off the rails because I forgot where I was going. But when, speaking about stigma and, growing up in the Catholic Church and being stigmatized as a result of being the child of a single parent household, or in my case, a child of divorce, it just, that us them dynamic was so reified in my awareness that I always wanted to be part of whatever group I didn't consider myself to be a part of, whether it was us or them, because I never really knew. And I think with stigma, like, it's the same kind of, I don't know what I want to say. With stigma, especially with alcohol and alcohol use, I always wanted to be a part of the group that I didn't feel I was in already. So like the fun partying group, I always wanted to be a part of that. And I think with our culture, the way it has progressed and the glamorization of alcohol use, alcohol as recreation is really blurring a lot of lines. And I don't know if alcoholism, I think it is more socially acceptable to be an alcoholic because you can have fun. You can have a White Claw. You can have, a GMT in a can and, take a boat ride or, hop in the flatbed of a truck and party down with your friends, But when it comes to anything synthetic, opiates or any other substance, I think there's such a marked stigma. And I think what people don't realize is that that stigma is crippling a large portion of our country, right? Because people are dependent on maintenance drugs, methadone, Suboxone. People become dependent, not dependent, but people require these drugs to function, and it doesn't make that person using them an addict or a, a bad person. It just makes them somebody who needs to take their medicine, which I think, I don't know if we touched on the disease model last time, but it's a maintenance drug. And I think that there's also, in the healthcare community, there's a large enough prejudice against patients who use maintenance drugs. And I wonder if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, the consequences of not having that service far outweigh the consequences or the reality of having services for people that are on maintenance drugs. There's just, for me, there's just no question about it. As I'm a I guess if you really wanted to ask in kind of how I view my recovery, I abstain from the drugs, alcohol. I have my doctor's medication that I take as prescribed. Then I think, hey, I'm great. There are some that say, I had a knee replacement, but because I'm an addict, I can't take any pain meds.
Mm-hmm.
Good for you. That's great. Somebody has an illness, heroin addiction, and they are trying to curb their heroin addiction, and they have to use maintenance drugs to do that. Then if the end goal is to, maybe even get off the maintenance drugs, but where do you start?
Mm-hmm.
You start with maintenance drugs, and you give them a good environment, safe environment, needle-free sites or needle sites and stuff like that. Imagine we can't even, there probably won't be able to measure the impact, the positive impact that it's had by simply having them available, than having them out there on the streets doing what they're doing out there.
Yeah.
So I think with anything, it comes down to that one thing, that main tenant thing that we've said, what's the key for you? Is it a desire to stop using? Then here's the steps. And it's different for everyone. And particularly with an opiate addiction, and then heroin, and then meth. You have to find a way to walk it back, and you just can't go cold, I think,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think there's too much of the one study I looked at said that the 44.5, no, sorry, wrong study, but there was a large percentage of healthcare providers that oh my goodness, see maintenance drugs as just substitution and not maintenance, or even a means to step down, so it's unfortunate.
And I think the reason why that they're gonna, because guess who has to pay, or not has to pay, but guess who's set up to pay for maintenance drugs? Thank you. Maintenance drugs. Who's gonna have to pay for those?
Yeah.
Insurance companies, and so and healthcare providers. They're gonna say, it's this. Well, the old model years ago that some people prescribe to is just, hey, put a cork in the bottle, and you're good.
Yeah.
We've come to find that it's not true anymore. There's a lot more to it, and there's a lot more. Can't just stop it. There's got to be something else in place. Maybe it is a talk therapy combined with maintenance drugs and consistent talk therapy, and finding a way to even try to see, hey, can we get you off this? Because even maintenance drugs might not be very good for your body in the long term,
That's,
but that's a path.
yeah. Yeah.
And I think they're probably having better success rates than this, the old model.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. And what brings this up for me, maintenance drugs, is I shared with you that I'm starting a new position and I had to get screened. And, I watched, upon your recommendation, that Hulu show Dope Sick, which was amazing. And, thinking of the doctor Phoenix, I think the character's name is, who, couldn't get his medical license because he was on maintenance drugs, but he wasn't actively using. And I was thinking, for my position, I'm not on maintenance drugs, but, what if, how does a person get out of a hole? How does a person move forward, And for me, especially, I'm thinking of this, or for me in particular, I'm thinking of this, from a woman's perspective. What if I had kids I had to take care of, and then I had to find a job, and then I had to, be screened. I was, conditionally hired, but upon a blood screen or a urine sample screening, and I failed because I'm on maintenance drugs, but I am taking care of my kids. All the bills are paid. But what do I do? How does one overcome that? And what's plan B? For in many instances, there might not be a plan B. What do you do?
I don't know the legalities of that. But a maintenance drugs is doctor prescribed therapy, right? I mean, are they getting their maintenance drugs off the street, or no? Because if they're not going to get maintenance drugs off the street, they're going to go get the heroin off the street. So
Yeah.
maintenance drugs are done by a licensed professional, and that's what we have to go by, right? So I don't know if the law would allow. That's like somebody saying that if they find Adderall in someone's system because they have ADHD, or if they find any other type of medicine, that somebody say, what if you take a drug screen after you've had a surgery on a shoulder and you're kind of rehab and you're still like physical therapy and you're still taking your medication, then you get screened by your job and they say, oh, you're on this now. So it would be a scary thing, but I don't know if they could actually disqualify you for that particular reason. But then they would find a different reason, I'm sure. But
Yeah.
There's that stigma, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to steal my purse. They're going to steal everything here at the office if we hire someone like that.
Exactly. And whether you get your maintenance drugs off the street or from a provider, say you don't have health insurance, but you know that you can get methadone at a methadone clinic and you don't need a healthcare provider specifically. So you go to a methadone clinic or you get Suboxone off the street and you don't have a prescription for it. What legality is there for a prospective employer or a current employer to say, hey, where are your bona fides for this? Like, show me a script. I don't know much about that area, but
yeah. Thinking about getting it from a clinic or whatever, I think that you could just be out in the wind.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think anybody could see past um, the immediate. Yeah, you're trying to get off, but you're not really off yet. So
Yeah.
why should we create the liability for the company by hiring somebody like you? Because you're going to go into a house and clean this person's house, and you're going to steal stuff. So we
Yeah.
can't bear the, and then they're stuck in the hole.
Yeah.
Or they're getting an underpaying job that doesn't pay any bills, doesn't give you any quality of life whatsoever, and you're stuck in the same old circle. Liabilities, I can just hear it.
Yeah. So the question is, for whom is this a moral or medical issue? The user or not the user, the consumer, or the corporation, the organization, the government. For who is the arbiter, and why do they get to be the arbiter of who gets to take the medication that they require?
Okay, so my jaded view of that, of the a government or a corporation, I don't think that morality comes into play. I don't think that's even part of their business model. I don't care what company it is. I don't think the morality comes into it. I think they're more beholden to the dollar.
Yes.
So unfortunately, maybe a small business owner type of situation would be, is going to be the one that's going to have a little bit more morality and give somebody a shot. Some recovering addict or alcoholic business owner that's been to the war, and understands, is going to give somebody a shot. But that's too far and in between real opportunities. They're hard to find because
Yeah.
there's not that many.
Yeah.
So yeah, my jaded view is the government doesn't really have any morals, and neither does definitely not a major corporation. I mean, I worked for a company that was about, I don't know, 1,600 people. And when my issue came up with my mental health and the breakdown, and they didn't care. They were counting the days that I missed, counting the hours, counting the thing. And then finally they had enough, and enough to, buy the book or their book,
Yeah.
not only fire me, but also be able to deny me, unemployment, after 15 years of dedicated service, and very rare, and I hardly ever called in, things like that. But yeah, I was just disposable.
Yeah.
And so, that kind of throws you back down in a hole as well, and being like, oh my gosh, after all I've done, where's the morality of it? It didn't exist. It was just a number then.
Yeah.
Regret.
Yeah. It brings me back, actually, full circle in our discussion, to a definition that I found of stigma, which refers to it as a biopolitical technology of power that allows certain subjects legitimacy and not others, and constitutes the conditions under which legitimate subjects emerge. And I think that's exactly what it is. It's a biopolitical invention. It's a biopolitical tool, and it's wielded like a scalpel to exclude certain populations and deny deny. And I think it's shocking and it's scary how so few people wield that scalpel when there is such a large population and an ever growing population of people who have AUD and SUD in our nation and the world. It's just expanding. But I think, as we've talked about, maybe on and off the air, we just have to get out and get our voices heard and advocate as much as we can to break down the stigma, create safe spaces, and let people know that there are treatment options there are so many treatment options out there that there's a place for everybody.
Yeah. And I think if we continue getting the message out there by whatever means possible to us as two single human beings that are trying to get this message out, the more we say it, the better chance we have of reaching further out into more people. And because now we're against this biopolitical, it's almost like I think it started probably 20s, 30s, 40s, or 50s, where it was a human condition, a human thing to stigmatize others. And then the power that be realized, ooh, we can turn this into a political football, a political power play, like how many other things that have become a political football.
Exactly.
Recently one that stands glaring out there right now, women's rights. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
They have no idea. Now, where's the morality in that? It doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist.
Don't get me started on that one, because that is, and so this power said, hey, there's a biopolitical football we can use to what? Ensure our power?
Yeah.
Give us power? Yeah, pretty much. What about this one? What about her sitting over here in Podunk, Iowa, needing help now?
Yeah.
Really? So, yeah, stigma. I'm going to have to look more into that biopolitical, because I've never heard of that concept.
Well, perhaps we can address that in our next episode.
Perhaps. All right. That sounds good.
We've covered a lot of good ground today. And I want to thank you for sharing your insights and your experiences and the little part of yourself that hopefully will reach somebody and let them know you're okay, it's okay, and it can get better.
Absolutely. Until next time.
Until next time.
All right. We'll see ya.